So welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, Jan. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So tell the listeners about you and what drove you into writing your memoir.
Yeah, and first, thank you for allowing me to inviting me to be on your show. It's much appreciated. What originally started as a family taking some notes I have 5 children, 7 grandchildren, one on the way. When my first grandchild was born about 11 years ago, I remember sitting in the hospital thinking, what do grandfathers do? I grew up in a single parent household as a child in Appalachia, and I just learned how to be a father. I just thought I got good at it. And then here comes the first grandchild. And so I started taking notes in the hospital of what do I say for to this grandchild as she gets older. And so I just started taking notes about lessons that I learned as a child. And I showed that to some coworkers of mine at the time. This is again 11 years ago. And they said, you really ought to formalize this, maybe write a book about it, which I hadn't thought of. And so that was the kind of the genesis of writing this book. And I've gotten really good reviews on it because I think a lot of people identify with it. It's not just about becoming a grandfather. It's really about from the earliest times of my memory. I was born in Appalachia, and I currently live in Salt Lake City. And I grew up in a single parent house and incredibly poor. And what were the lessons that I learned over the years that got me to the point where I am now? And so that's really what the book is about. It's almost universally, people will say that book made me laugh and it made me cry. And that's what I was looking for when I wrote it.
So you said you grew up in the Appalachia. Where exactly is that? If some of the viewers are kind of listening to this and they're like, okay, where is that? Could you tell them where that is?
Oh, absolutely. Appalachia really starts, and most people, not all, but most people have heard about the Appalachian Mountains. It's in the eastern United States, but it's really a long, kind of a narrow region of the United States starts in New York, and it goes all the way down to Georgia, and it's narrow. Eastern Ohio, where I'm from, a little town called Zanesville, Ohio, is in the west central part of Appalachia, but it includes a lot of different types of people, different economic scales and things like that. But generally, Appalachia is known for, a poorer part of the country. And, it includes West Virginia, Kentucky, and in that area that I'm most familiar with.
So how did you overcome obstacles and challenges that you faced growing up in the Appalachia?
Well, I think about three or four things of overcoming. The first was, and it took me a while, really as a teenager, it took me a while to realize that I was worthy of something more in my life. And I think there are some people that they feel bad about themselves. How do I overcome this? And I think the start is to feel that you're worthy. Where I came from, there were, the classes. There was the upper class, middle class, and lower class. And naturally, I was in the lower class. And I remember as a kid thinking, this is where I am. I'm in the lower class, and there's no ability to, move my life upwards and things like. It's just a generational thing. And so that's the first thing is understanding your worthiness as an individual. The second would be a desire, really a desire inside to make something better. And speaking for me of myself, and I didn't know how I would ever do that as a youngster. I had this desire, but I think in the case of many, it's like, how do I do this? I didn't grow up with with an educated mother, didn't have a father around much. And so it leads into the second point, or the third really, besides the desire, is I met some individuals, some men, some really good men who kind of took me under their wing, mentored me, made me think about things that I had never thought of before, and began to teach me. So I think the third thing is I started to find and surround myself with people that that were good mentors, good people, had no other agendas other than, these are older men that, wanted to help me. So that was another reason. And then I think it's just being willing to do hard things. Doing hard things, experiencing the failures and the successes. I think the failures, honestly, and the hard failures were more important to me to teach me, because I within all of this, it was like I'm on this path, and a lot of it was a hard go of it. And so I think that's those are the things that really come to mind on, allowing me to get through that adversity as a youngster to today.
So you were in the United States Air Force. Oh, thanks for your service. Was that an escape for you, or was that something you wanted to do?
That is a great question. I think one of the turning points was enlisting. So I was a senior in high school, didn't know what I was going to do. I had a friend that I talked to who had enlisted, and he said, "Hey, you got to check this out." And it was really in the Ohio Air National Guard, but I had to go on active duty Air Force basic training and so on and tech schools things to do that. I did it. Your question is good, because I did it for two reasons. I always admired the military and love of country, really love of the United States. I didn't know a lot when I was young, but one thing I did know, and I'm very appreciative of myself of realizing this, is how much I didn't know and how much I needed to have discipline. I checked some boxes in my head of what would the military do for a kid that's not had a dad around, doesn't have a lot of discipline, but wants to go somewhere. And so I enlisted. And it was one of the best things I ever did. I ended up serving for 12 years in the Air National Guard, but that's after I went on active duty and things like that. And it really was good for me. It kind of set me up to do hard things later in life, because going through certain aspects of the military are hard.
Well, that's great. As I said, thanks for your service, and
thanks.
You're very welcome. So you also teach financial literacy and to adults. Is it adults only in the US, or do you focus only on the Appalachia area?
No, it really is wherever I've lived. I've lived a lot of different places around the country, and I've taught economics, and I've been a guest in senior classes of high school, go in and talk about economics and finance. I've done elementary school things, but really where I'm focused more is I have people that will call me, Jan, I don't know what to do about this personal financial matter. I've got a tax issue. Not much of a tax guy, but I know taxes, so I'm able to help, because for a lot of people, that big issue that's wearing on their minds is something that I can help them with. And so I do that quite a bit. And it's part of my effort, because I was in that spot, years ago, not understanding certain things, and I needed that help. And so I provide that. Anybody that wants it, that's one of the things I do.
Sounds great. So tell us a little bit about your book, and where can the listeners get a copy of it?
Yeah, thank you. The book is called, let me hold it up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
The book is called Searching for Change.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dual meaning in that title, but the book starts in 1929, and naturally you can look at me, I'm not that old, but my mother was born in 1929, and my story really begins with her story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was raised by strong women. There were very little men in my life. The book outlines some of that. And strong women were the only grandparent I knew was my grandmother. My grandfathers were killed in the coal mines in the 20s and 30s. Grandfathers didn't have any of that around. My mother's mother, she never knew her mother. My mother grew up in an orphanage and a foster home in Ohio. So it really starts with her, and then it points out some important factors in her life that rubbed off on me in a good way. She was very determined, very proud woman, very hardworking woman. She passed away 2 years ago at the age of 94. But she lived a long life, and it was hard for her at times. So I start with that because of her importance to me. The title Searching for Change really has two meanings. The first is, when I was really young, we were always looking for money to put gas in the car. And I remember her several times saying, Jan, and she called me Janny, by the way. My mother always called me Janny. She said, Janny, we need to look in the cushions, go around and look for change. Search around here for some change. We got to put a little gas in the car. And the needle was always on empty in the gas for the car. So that's one of the meanings. The other meaning is searching to change my life from where it was, the hardships, the adversity, and searching for that change in my life to make it something that I wanted it to be. But at the time, I wasn't sure exactly what I was searching for. I just knew I wanted to be something more than I was at the time.
So have you been back to the Appalachia, to the place where you grew up? Have you been back to visit? Have you shared your book with the people in that community?
Oh yeah, a lot of the sales of the book. So the book's on Amazon, and you can get it in audio form on iTunes and Audible and so on. So it's out there. But a lot of the sales of that book are coming from that whole area where I'm from. And I do get back there. My father-in-law, who was very instrumental in my life, he is still alive. He lives there. And because of him, I get back there a lot. And I have my wife and I met in the 7th grade. So we grew up together. We graduated together. So we get back there to see, our friends from high school. We had our 40th anniversary of our high school reunion last year. So we get back there a lot.
Okay, that sounds great. From the 7th grade, your wife.
Oh, yeah. And she is, I made fun of her in the 7th grade. And, like 12-year-old boys can be a little quirky. And I was like the definition of it, of quirkiness. So I was so grateful. We didn't start dating till we were seniors in high school, but I was grateful that it worked out.
So what website, what is the name of your website?
The website is searchingforchange.com. I'm actually in the middle of putting stuff on it. My career is in corporate finance. I'm sitting at my desk here right now working, and I keep busy. And so what happens is I'm always behind in something. So I'm loading up the Searching for Change website. It's brand new. So if there's nothing up there right today, keep checking. It'll be there. Okay. But again, you can get on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. My book is out there. If you Google it, there's plenty to see other than my unfinished website.
So do you have any last words for the listeners and who are working towards their dreams?
Yeah, and I think it's an overall important question. It's the number one thing is to, again, understand that you're worthy of good success, of change, wherever you want to change. And it's so important to identify, be honest with yourself and identify your weaknesses. It's easy to identify your strengths, but when you identify your weakness, which I do often, and it's painful, but it allows you to fix those things and change those things to make sure that your path of where you want to be in life going okay, because there's constant change. The other thing is adversity. Adversity in life, it happens, it's gonna happen. Some adversity is very severe, some not so much, but it's how you react to adversity that will change the direction of your life. And I think those two things, surround yourself with good people, but have a fire inside. But if you focus on those things and you have a goal, just keep at it no matter how hard it is.
Well said, Jan. Well, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you for the invitation. I certainly appreciate it.